everybody. Monday Morning Quarterback, episode 115. We've missed you guys the last couple weeks. Happy to be back. Had some traveling going on, and then we wanted to take a little bit of a break to get a better setup. So 115 episodes in, me sitting behind the computer gets old, and wanting to be out in the shop and show you guys more interactive things and different things we're working on, and continue to give you guys as much knowledge as we can. And so that required cameraman and different things. And so we got our buddy Tyler here, who does all of our promo videos, operating the cameras tonight, so we can bring you a more interactive, better show, hopefully. So be sure to share it, like it, and if you got Monday Morning Quarterback friends who aren't Facebookers, this will be on our YouTube page this week. The previous 114 episodes are up currently. So before we dive into tonight's topic, which is inside a quarter midget shock, I want to give a big shout out to Gunner Pio. We did a Facebook post on him today, but such an amazing accomplishment. Wanted to recognize him here as well. National quarter midget race in Texas, and he won all 5 of his heat races and all 5 A main events. That's unheard of with that caliber of equipment, that caliber of competition, I should say, to go out there, track he's never seen before, and have that much success. So congratulations to Gunner, his family, Aaron Bose, who works on the stuff, and the whole Storm team. That's a really, really cool accomplishment. His little brother picked up a Blue Rookie national win out there, and I know his sister Quinn got second in junior animal, maybe. I'm not sure how she finished in Honda, but great weekend by the whole family. But Gunner really knocked it out of the park, so a huge shout out to him and the Storm team on their win out there. We had other guys winning some races as well. Ree Whitney picked up a couple. I'm not prepared with everybody who won, but a big shout out to those guys. The national season was really cut short this year, which was unfortunate, but we did get a lot of racing in, so we're happy that we're able to get the racing in that we did. So tonight's topic is inside a quarter midget shock. This is half of our new JR4 shock, and we've gotten some questions the past month or so about owners wanting to rebuild their quarter midget shock, and we're a little discouraging on that, and I want to explain why. And because certainly if you have the knowledge of shocks and the tools like a shock dyno and all the proper stuff to do it, by all means we would love to sell you parts. However, we don't want you to get the thing apart and just be overwhelmed with all the stuff going on inside, and then end up having to ship the shocks to us anyway, and you made an investment in tools and parts, etc. So when we designed this shock, we were not designing it for user-friendly, owner-rebuildable in mind. We were designing it for the utmost performance, so kids like Gunner can win 5 national races in a day. All right. So this is literally a scaled-down version of our big shock, and I'm going to walk through some of the stuff, why we did what we did, and at the end of this, if you're like, you have rebuilt shocks like that, and you have a shock dyno, you got a buddy that's got a shock dyno, by all means we'll sell you parts. We want to be as friendly with our customers as we can, but I've been building shocks for 20 years, and I wouldn't blow apart Hudson shock in my trailer and put it back together and put a shaft in it at the track unless I had a dyno. There's just way too much going on. It can go back together the wrong way too easily, as you'll see here in just a second. So I'll dive into some of the inner workings of this shock. And so the heart of it is it's a deflective disc design. Okay, so you'll see the main piston stack, the rebound shim stack, the compression shim stack. You'll also notice there's a jet in the shaft. So this gives us the ability to add additional bleed, which would control our low speed dampening on either the compression side of the shock, the rebound side, or both, depending on where we have the check ball in the shaft, or if we're running a pin and a check ball. So if I take the piston nut off, we have a compression or a rebound stack. And then our piston, we have a couple different piston options, but most of the time we're using this piston. And so you can see it's 6 ports one way, 3 the other. So that gives us the ability to add additional flow on the compression or the rebound side, depending on the build, okay? compression shim stack. So then there is an area here where we would have a cross pin, and we would either have the check ball above it or below it, depending on if we're wanting to bleed compression or rebound. If there's no check ball, we're bleeding both sides. And this jet here, we can put anywhere from a 10 thousandths to a 60 thousandths hole, depending on how we're wanting to control low speed dampening. You'll also notice that we have some bleed holes in the piston. So the quarter midget is such a light little race car. This gives us the ability to really control our low speed dampening, and then we're controlling the high speed slope based on the piston we choose. The other thing that can get you in trouble is we also have a base valve in all of our shocks. So if I were to screw the body cap off, inside of here you'll find a divider piston. Okay, that keeps the oil and the air separate. And then we run a spring behind the divider piston, and that's going to simulate like 5 psi of gas pressure. You'll notice our new shocks, we don't have a Schrader valve. And we did that just for maintenance reasons, people not wanting to check the nitrogen every race. This just made it easy. We put that spring in there. We're never going to have a cavitation issue. But when we come up with the build for these shocks, we put a base valve stack in it based on what the compression build in the shock is. So it's all pressure balanced. So if you take this thing apart and you get the shims mixed up, now that's not going to match the base valve. All right. If you buy a shim kit and you want to revalve your shock, well, you need to change the base valve build as well to go along with that. So that's another layer of complexity with our quarter midget shock that some don't have. So a lot going on in this little bitty thing, and a lot of things that could get you in trouble as you take it apart. So for those reasons, we're really cautious when somebody calls to order parts, asking them, are you sure this is something you want to do? Because it's, by the time you buy the oil and the shaft wrench and all the stuff, you're going to be an investment, well over $100 to fix it. And so we want to make sure that you're not wasting your money. It might be more cost effective to send it to us. We do have some great quarter midget rebuilders throughout the country. Algeyers in Illinois, Stenzel down in Georgia, and those guys have spent time here learning the inner workings of our shock. They rebuild shocks every day. So there's definitely some options. If you don't want to send it to Indiana, if you're in one of those regions, there's a couple guys there that can fix it. And by all means, if your buddy's a shock guy for a NASCAR team or an IndyCar team and he can do it, we'll get you the parts you need. I just thought this was a good time to show you all the stuff. A lot of people think of like the old Tanner shocks where you take it apart and it's just a solid piston and you put a shaft in it, put it back together, and there's no base valve, and you really can't do anything wrong as long as you get everything tight. Here, there's a lot that can go wrong depending on how you get it apart. If you get the check ball back in the right orientation, if you get the piston in the right way, the shim stack the right way, inspecting the shims to make sure there's no damage to the shims, bleeding the shock properly. We bleed all of our stuff with an air vac machine. I don't have one of those over here now, but that ensures that we get all the air out of the shock. So all those things go into a high-performing shock, and that's definitely what we intended for when we designed the shock. We didn't design a shock that would be really easy for us to sell seal kits to our customers. Okay. Anybody that has any questions pertaining to this topic or anything you got, I'm going to pick up my phone, and hopefully this works. Hopefully I can see the live and see all of your questions, and we can get you going here. Cell signal's going a little slow. There we go. Now you're hearing me talk. Rick, how's it going? Cole Bennett, you guys had a good week out there as well. I missed the Junior Honda Main, but I think I saw that Cole got third in Junior Animal. I was trying to watch as many as we could. We really wanted to be out there, but when they canceled that original national race. We'd made other plans with the shock trailer and everything. Big race here this weekend with the Outlaws at Kokomo, and so that made it difficult for us to be there, so it sucked that we weren't there. But Jackson Reynolds, how do the 4s compare to the 3s? It's a total redesign. So the 3 was just a little bit different than the 2. We changed the piston and a couple things. The 4 is completely different from the ground up. What we were trying to do when we built the 4 was bridge the gap between our through shaft and our standard shock, which was pretty wide at the time. The through shaft was better on almost every surface. The problem with the through shaft, one, it's an expensive shock. There's a lot going on in there. And 2, it requires a substantial amount of maintenance. You got to rebuild those things about every 15 races because we got twice as many seals in it and a lot going on. So we started trying to bridge that gap with the 3, and we basically got to the end of the road where we couldn't make any more headway, and we decided just to start from scratch and build a whole new shock. So a couple things we did. We have a floating seal head design. So rather than being solid in here, we have a floating seal head design which minimized seal drag and improved the response of the shock. So that was really a big thing. Total new base valve design that perfectly matched flow to the new piston. So the 4 is a huge difference. Everything, the ride height adjuster is different. We redesigned everything just to optimize performance. And now I feel like it's every bit as good as our through shaft shock. I use the 4 on my little guy's car when we could use a through shaft. Obviously, we build them here all the time. So, Bonner Jones, is there any maintenance you need to do after being on the track to the through shafts? No maintenance per se, other than they need to be rebuilt every 15 races or so. So keep a good close eye on them, make sure they're not leaking. And if they're leaking, they need service. Where the JR4 will go 25 races, 30 races before it needs rebuilt. So it's got a substantial life. Matt, you can't update the 3 to the 4. They're just, the shock's totally different. Everything is totally different. But you could trade it in towards a 4. Our trade-in program is good through the end of next month. And so we could trade your 3s in towards 4s. If you want more information on that, feel free to shoot me an email, Garrett@csishocks.com. Zach, will the JR4 eventually take over the JRX? At the present time, we still intend to offer both. Main reason is we've got a lot of customers that have a set or 2 sets of through shafts, and so since they already have an investment in those, they just want to keep using them, and they love them. They want a lot of races with them. So I don't see us doing away with the through shaft. We're going to have parts to service. Some have built them for 3 or 4 years now, and we certainly want to continue to service those for customers. So I don't think it'll replace it, although since this is substantially less money up front, I would say we build 9-to-1 JR4s to JRX sets at the moment. Does anybody else have any questions for us tonight? Happy to answer them, whether it's quarter midget related, big car related, update on football tonight, anybody watching the game, and then some other things you want to see. So we're giving this a good run. Like I say, Tyler, our video guy, does all of our promo stuff, is going to be with us here for a few weeks to try this out and see if this is something that you guys like. The multiple camera angles out in the shop. I could never do this by myself. That's why I was always behind the computer screen, because I had to run the board in the camera and look at everything. We're here. He's running the cameras and the board, and I can focus on showing you products. So that's really, really cool. And tomorrow, keep an eye to our social media, because a really sweet video that Tyler's been working on the last couple of weeks is going to drop, and that's the official launch of our new XT series big car shock. So there'll be a video for that coming out tomorrow. So if nobody else has any questions, we will sign off for tonight. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be live again next Monday, and if you are in Millbridge next week, our shock trailer will be there. Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to go. I've had some things come up, but T-Bone's going to be down there with our shock trailer. He can hook you up and get you fixed up. So he'll be there Monday for practice night. I'll be here going live. So thanks again for tuning in. Hope you all have a fantastic week.